Torrential rains and swollen rivers have unleashed widespread flooding across Washington this week, inundating towns from Puget Sound to the Cascade foothills. The event, described by meteorologists as one of the most severe December flood episodes in recent memory, has tested infrastructure, displaced thousands, and reignited debates about climate resilience in the Pacific Northwest. The flooding was triggered by a powerful atmospheric river, a narrow corridor of concentrated moisture streaming from the Pacific Ocean. Over the course of 4 days, rainfall totals exceeded 8 inches in parts of western Washington, with snowmelt from the Cascades adding to the surge. The National Weather Service reported that river gauges along the Snoqualmie, Skagit, and Chehalis Rivers reached or surpassed major flood stage, overwhelming levees and spilling into low-lying communities. Atmospheric rivers are not new to Washington, but their intensity has grown in recent years. Scientists note that warmer air holds more moisture, and climate change has amplified the frequency of extreme precipitation events. This storm coincided with unseasonably warm temperatures, accelerating snowmelt and compounding runoff. In King County, the Snoqualmie Valley saw extensive flooding, with farmland transformed into temporary lakes. Roads were closed, and emergency crews used boats to rescue residents trapped in homes. In Lewis County, the Chehalis River breached its banks, forcing the evacuation of several neighborhoods in Centralia and Chehalis. Schools canceled classes, and shelters opened to accommodate displaced families. Seattle, though spared the worst river flooding, experienced urban inundation as storm drains backed up. Several major intersections were submerged, and metro bus routes were rerouted. The city's aging stormwater infrastructure, designed decades ago for less intense rainfall, struggled to cope with the deluge. The floods exposed vulnerabilities in Washington's infrastructure. Highways such as I-5 faced closures due to water overtopping lanes, disrupting freight traffic along the West Coast's most critical corridor. Rail lines were also affected, with Amtrak service suspended between Seattle and Portland after tracks near Kelso were submerged. Levees along the Chehalis River, long criticized as inadequate, failed to contain the surge. Local officials reiterated calls for the long-debated Chehalis Basin Flood Control Project, which includes proposals for a dam and improved levee systems. Critics argue that such projects are costly and environmentally disruptive, but the recurring floods highlight the urgency of long-term solutions. Power outages compounded the crisis. Substations in flood-prone areas were knocked offline, leaving thousands without electricity. Utility crews worked around the clock to restore service, but access was hampered by road closures. Emergency services reported dozens of water-related accidents. In Thurston County, several vehicles were swept off rural roads, though most occupants were rescued. Tragically, at least 3 fatalities were confirmed statewide, 2 from drowning in fast-moving floodwaters, and 1 from a landslide triggered by saturated soil near North Bend. Hospitals treated numerous cases of hypothermia and minor injuries. The Washington State Patrol emphasized that many accidents occurred when drivers attempted to cross flooded roads, underscoring the persistent danger of underestimating floodwaters. Turn around, don't drown became the repeated mantra of officials. Preliminary estimates suggest damages could exceed $500 million. Agriculture suffered heavily, with dairy farms in the Snoqualmie Valley losing livestock and crops. Small businesses in downtown Chehalis reported extensive losses as floodwaters entered storefronts. Insurance claims are expected to surge, though many residents in floodplains lack adequate coverage. Transportation disruptions carried broader economic impacts. With I-5 closed for nearly 24 hours, freight companies faced delays in delivering goods across the West Coast. The Port of Seattle reported interruptions in cargo movement, highlighting the interconnectedness of infrastructure and commerce. Governor Jay Inslee declared a state of emergency, mobilizing the National Guard to assist with evacuations and sandbagging efforts. Federal assistance is expected, with FEMA teams assessing damage for potential disaster relief funding. The floods reignited debates about Washington's preparedness for climate-driven disasters. Lawmakers face pressure to accelerate investments in flood mitigation, including modernizing stormwater systems, reinforcing levees, and restoring wetlands that naturally absorb floodwaters. Environmental groups argue that nature-based solutions, such as river restoration and reforestation, can provide resilience without the ecological costs of dams. Residents expressed both frustration and resilience. "We've been through floods before, but this one felt different. Faster, stronger," said Maria Lopez, a Chehalis resident whose home was inundated. Farmers lamented repeated losses, while volunteers praised the solidarity of neighbors helping neighbors. In Seattle, commuters voiced anger at traffic chaos, but many acknowledged the broader reality. Urban infrastructure is not keeping pace with climate extremes. "It's a wake-up call," said one city council member. "We can't keep patching systems built for the past." Meanwhile, tens of thousands of Washington residents were under evacuation orders Thursday after days of unrelenting heavy rain triggered flooding that overflowed rivers, sent mud sliding onto highways, and trapped people in floodwaters. Governor Bob Ferguson has warned that lives will be at stake in the coming days. The flooding levels we're looking at are potentially historic in nature, so we just want to emphasize how serious the situation is, Ferguson said at a news briefing Thursday, one day after declaring a statewide emergency. "This situation is extremely unpredictable. Some residents have already been ordered to higher ground as the state sees some of its worst flooding in decades." Skagit County, in a major agricultural region north of Seattle, has ordered everyone within the Skagit River's floodplain to evacuate. Some 78,000 people live in the floodplain, according to the county's emergency management chief, Julie De Lasada.
It's hard to imagine.
Catastrophic flooding is likely in many areas, and the state is requesting water rescue teams and boats, Ferguson said Wednesday night on X. The National Water Prediction Service was forecasting 18 major floods and 15 moderate floods across the state, he said. Hundreds of Guard members will be sent to help communities, said Gent Welsh, Adjutant General of the Washington National Guard. The high water mark upstream at the town of Concrete was below estimates, but authorities warned people that record levels elsewhere were still possible. "That doesn't mean to say that we're out of the woods. We're not," said Robert Ezell, director of the Washington Military Department's Emergency Management Division, "because as the waters come down here, they're still going to be gaining strength." Along the river in Mount Vernon, teams knocked on doors in low-lying areas Thursday to inform residents of evacuation notices, city authorities said. Further north near the U.S.-Canada border, firefighters rescued several people from their homes in Semá, Mayor Bruce Bosch said. 7-year-old Jocelyn Roses choked back tears as she returned to find her home in a mobile home park underwater in Monroe, a city northeast of Seattle. "The only clothes I've got are just my pajamas," she told CBS News. Her father, Jose Roses, the family moved here about 2 months ago after his wife was diagnosed with cancer. "It's hard because we had to explain to her why we moved over here," Roses said of what he and his wife told their daughter. Roses said the move was intended to save money for his wife's treatment. "And now it's gone," he said of their home. Heavy rain continued to fall over parts of the state, prompting rising rivers, road closures, water rescues, and suspension of Amtrak trains between Seattle and Vancouver. Rainfall intensity increased in several counties in Washington's Cascade Mountains, which had seen up to 6 inches of rain in 24 hours. One area, Snoqualmie Pass, picked up an additional 1.7 inches of rain in 6 hours, the National Weather Service said. The governor said that even after the water recedes, there will be a long, difficult road ahead. The impact on Washingtonians is significant now, and it's going to be significant in the coming days, Ferguson said, and that is an understatement. Harrison Rademacher, a meteorologist with the Weather Service in Seattle, described the atmospheric river soaking the region as a jet stream of moisture stretching across the Pacific Ocean, with the nozzle pushing right along the coast of Oregon and Washington. Another storm system is expected to bring more rain starting Sunday. The pattern looks pretty unsettled going up to the holidays, Rademacher said.
And they just reopened it.
Pierce County Sheriff's deputies on Wednesday rescued people at an RV park in Ording, including helping one man in a Santa hat wade through waist-deep water.
People are backing up and backing out.
Part of the town was ordered to evacuate over concerns about the Puyallup River's extremely high levels and upstream levees. On Thursday, officials in Pierce County said they had conducted more than 25 rescues. A landslide blocked part of Interstate 90 east of Seattle, with photos from East Side Fire and Rescue showing vehicles trapped by tree trunks, branches, mud, and standing water. Officials also closed a mountainous section of US 2 due to rocks, trees, and mud.
Already flooding.
More than 11,000 customers in Washington had lost electricity by Thursday night, according to the tracking site Power Outage US. One volunteer, Brandon Hunt, said he helped people who were waving their hands on their front door and didn't know what to do. They didn't know if they could drive through water, he said, and he helped them get out of their yard and to safety. The Snoqualmie River crested at 24 feet about an hour northeast of Seattle, reaching its highest level since 2006 and 9 feet above flood stage, CBS News' Carter Evans reported. The Skagit River was expected to crest at roughly 39 feet in Mount Vernon early Friday. While that projection is lower than previous estimates, Mount Vernon officials were nonetheless urging residents in the floodplain to evacuate. That's still a record flood, and so we're preparing for that, Mayor Peter Donovan said, adding that they'd be visiting low-lying neighborhoods, residential areas, and getting the word out the best that we can for folks who haven't responded yet to evacuation notices. The county was closing non-essential government services on Thursday, including all district and superior court services. Flooding from the river has long plagued Mount Vernon, the largest city in the county with some 35,000 residents. Flooding in 2003 displaced hundreds of people.
The weather's not so harsh today.
The city completed a flood wall in 2018 that helps protect the downtown. It passed a major test in 2021 when the river crested near record levels. But the city is on high alert. The historic river levels expected Friday could top the wall, and some are worried that older levees could fail. It could potentially be catastrophic, said Ellen Gamson, executive director of the Mount Vernon Downtown Association. Jake Lambley added sandbags, tested water pumps, and moved valuables to the top floor of the home he shares with his 19-year-old son. "This is my only asset," he said Wednesday from his front porch. "I got nothing else." Meanwhile, officials issued new evacuation orders in Abbotsford, British Columbia, and closed a stretch of Highway 1 as local floodwaters continued rising Thursday night. The city of Abbotsford said the latest evacuated properties are all located north of Highway 1 and include the Clarion Hotel on Parallel Road, the Ministry of Agriculture and Foods building on Angus Campbell Road, and 5 other properties. Flooding also forced officials to shut down the highway from Summis Way to number 3 road shortly before 8 p.m. Approximately 450 other properties in the Fraser Valley remain under evacuation orders, while more than 1,800 others in that region and the Okanagan-Similkameen are under evacuation alerts following this week's intense atmospheric river. "We are not yet through this emergency," said Kelly Green, the province's Minister of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, during a news conference earlier Thursday. "This is going to be a team effort, and everyone has a role to play." BC Premier David Eby told CTV News he's monitoring the unfolding situation in the Fraser Valley. Government investments in river flow prediction equipment allowed the province to move much faster this week than it could during the devastating flooding of November 2021, Eby said. He also noted Abbotsford's Barrowtown pump station, which was nearly overwhelmed 4 years ago, is much better protected following flood resilience upgrades. "This is still very scary for a lot of people in the area," Eby said. "But certainly, we've got the teams in place to provide the support that's necessary." While some routes into southwestern BC have reopened since being closed Wednesday, including the Coquihalla between Hope and Merritt, Highway 1 between Yale and Lytton, and Highway 99 to Lillooet, others remain closed or partially closed. Drivers heading west on Highway 1 from Hope can get through to Chilliwack, but eastbound traffic is closed, while Highway 3, the southern route out of the lower mainland, is completely cut off. Engineering assessments and repairs were underway Thursday morning, with updates on the status of the highways expected later in the day, the province said. Flood warnings, the highest alert issued by BC's River Forecast Centre, remain in effect for the Summis River, Tulameen River, and Similkameen River tributaries, including those around Princeton. On Thursday afternoon, the city of Chilliwack declared a state of local emergency, issuing an evacuation order for 2 properties on Marble Hill Road. The evacuations were prompted by a debris slide caused by heavy rain in the area, the city said in an update on its website. The emergency declaration followed others issued by the city of Abbotsford and the Fraser Valley Regional District.
Down at
Abbotsford ordered residents of 82 properties to leave Thursday as water from the Nooksack River in Washington state crossed the border into the Fraser Valley.
The dike has...
Those evacuated properties were in addition to the 371 properties in the Summis Prairie West region that the city had previously ordered abandoned.